we go. I'm just going to hit the go live button now. Alrighty ho. We're all set up. So, as I always say, hello, Planet Earth, and welcome to Lilia's live stream on Wednesday. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Lilia of Facialteam, and my pronouns are she, hers, they, them. And today we're back for the 20th episode of the Reflective Conversation series by D.M. Maynard for partners, parents, family of people in gender transition. Woohoo, D, number 20.
I'm so excited, Lilia. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to Facialteam. I'm so excited to have Charley be the 20th guest, but I'll let you talk first. But just thank you for the audience that always comes and supports us. I thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a giant welcome to you, Dee, our resident author and speaker. So our special guest, as you mentioned, is Charley Burton, a public speaker, mentor, author, and advocate for trans equality. Welcome, Charley.
Thank you. Thank you. 20, big deal.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years and we've done 20 episodes now of this series. Like I said, especially for parents, partners, family members, and educators of trans people. So
I want to also say thank you also about allowing me to do the education posts. I really appreciate that. A new one's going to be coming out this month. So thank you so much for that too.
Yeah, I'll be sharing those links
okay.
in the chat. So all of our viewers that are here today, look over on the side of this screen and you'll see the chat. You can type in your questions and I'll incorporate them into our conversation. If you have any questions for DM Maynard or for Charley Burton today on the topic of his book or these books, then we'll be happy to address them if they're pertinent to the conversation. So let me just say a couple things about Charley before we go, because Charley's such an amazing person. An author, as we know. You can check out his website, charleyspeaks.com. I'll also put in, we'll talk more about the book later on, and I'll put in the link in the chat too later so people can go directly to that. But in the video description, we also have all the links. So Charley is the president of PF Flag of the Blue Ridge area, correct? And he's also co-founder of Diversity in Recovery, in which for over 15 years, he's been mentoring young trans adults in the recovery community. Wow. And Charley, you've also received the Community Root Award in 2021 from the Black Pride RVA, which is Richmond, Virginia. Amazing.
That's right.
And yeah, I don't know. There's so many things to celebrate about Charley. D, did you want to add something?
Yes, I'm going to go through. I'm going to discuss them in our conversation. There are tons.
Okay, so how did you meet Charley? Can you tell us?
Yes. So, Lil, I had said to the two of you before when we were prepping, I almost wish it's like on my living room right now for sure, because Charley and I have become wonderful friends and I'm wonderful friends with Lil. So it's like I'm with like two of my buddies, and so I met Charley because mutual friends of ours kept saying, D, if you and Charley meet, you are going to be fast friends and you are going to adore each other. And we had the opportunity. We were selected as part of a panel with WPATH in Montreal. And it was last September,
last September.
Yeah. Yep. And we hit it off, like they said, on our panel, and we hung out the whole time with our other friends, and we went on like a boat ride. We had a wonderful time with each other.
That's right.
And we all ate a lot.
Yes.
One of our favorite things. And then we were sat at the same table when they were doing the publicity for our books. With our books. And then we I got his book, he got my book, and then we, as this journey started, and as we became more friends, I'm like, closer friends, I said, Charley, I would really, really love to interview you, and I wanted to wait till my 20th episode to do it with him, and so it timed out good. So Lil, I wanted to show them Charley's book for a second, okay? I'm going to do that now. Okay. So
that's a cute little boy.
Yes, it is a cute little boy. So, okay. And so, and so at the time, I was signing my books, he was signing his book, and we got to do that. So, so that's how I met Charley, and here he is. So I'm going to just move on now and do the interview. Is that okay with you, Lil?
Of course.
Oh, okay, great. I just want to make sure I usually say I'm going to do it. So Charley, for those people who aren't familiar with your book, why don't you tell me a little bit about it and why you felt it was really important to write?
So thanks, Dee, and thanks for having me on this big 20th. 2-0, that's really good.
If only that was my age.
right, exactly. I don't know if I want to go back to 20.
Oh, no.
20 was dangerous.
I think I shared too much, Charley. Okay.
Dee, so the book is, the first few chapters of the book, I tell everybody, it's pretty triggering. It's a book of a lot of different emotions. And the first few chapters of the book were written when I was drunk or I was in some type of emotional state. And I saved the pages of this book on those floppy disks. You remember the floppy disks? That's how long ago. That's how long ago. That's how long ago. And I didn't set out. I kept saying in the book, you'll see in the book that I kept saying, one day I hope this becomes a book. But mentally, I never thought it would. When I started looking, when I first started transitioning, I started looking for books. I started looking for books about Black trans men, and there were absolutely none. And so this book I wrote because I think Black trans men need to read it, youth need to read it, elders need to read it, partners need to read it, lay people, just therapists. It really gets inside the head of someone who is very disturbed and trying to fight to find their gender. And so that's pretty much, I was at a conference, virtually, of course, in British Columbia with a few really big names that just kind of blew me away of even being on this panel with these icons of trans men. And Margot Wilson, who owns Transgender Publishing, sent me a little quick text and asked me in the chat, would I be interested in writing my story? And I said yes. And that started this beautiful relationship between Margot that we met once a week. I kind of transferred all those files over to her and we started compiling the book. And here it is. There it is. Boy Beneath My Skin.
What a beautiful, beautiful story. And, Charley, you deserve all of this. I've read this book many, many moments in different countries as I was traveling, doing my work. And one of the things really is those first two chapters. They can be triggering. I had to put it down sometimes, to be honest, and then pick it back up again. I know other people have shared with me what you just discussed about being triggering. And I think that what is beautiful, I use the word beautiful all the time. I don't know. It's
great word.
I use it all the time. Is important and special about the book really is that we see your journey and the angst and the pain that you went through. And another person I interviewed talked about this too, more recently, who had written a book, and of coming to terms with your gender. And along that journey, addictions came up and other areas that, you could talk about. I don't want to disclose that about, things that you share in the book. And that the hope that was in that even the parts of such despair, the hope and the wish to live, even when you talked about suicide, there was still, it still came through to me as a reader. And And here you are, Charley, and alive and vibrant and adding to this world in the most beautiful way. And so I think that you were on that panel for a reason, so that someone could let you see your value and the importance that you had. And I'm so happy that you met up and that you had that journey together that brought you here. And I know you speak about her a lot. I think she uses the pronoun she, right?
Yes.
Oh, I don't want to be incorrect. And
No,
so,
you're right.
So tell me when you came up with the title of the book. The boy. I'm going to hold up the book again. The Boy Beneath My Skin, Black Trans Man Living in the South by Charley Burton, right? So tell me how you came about using that title.
First, I'm gonna hire you as my PR person because you're really good.
Charley, the answer is yes. It's now live and everybody's going to know the answer is
all
yes.
right. Yeah. The morning that I woke up in this house, I was in a lesbian relationship, and it was just going south. It was horrible, and actually, Constance is in the book because I felt it was important that people saw that Charley was not this really great spiritual sober guru. At points, Charley was sober and still an a-hole, and so she's gone, and I'm in this house that I can't afford to live in, and I woke up. And I thought, one of the nicest things Constance has done for me is that she left that really nice cutlery set in the kitchen because they're real sharp. And I felt like I needed to just take the knife and cut the layer of skin off that I felt was female and see what was underneath that skin. What's underneath that skin? Would it be the boy that I've always wanted to be? So when Margot said, what do we need for a title? It was almost instantly is that, I want to expose the world to the boy that was beneath the skin. So that's pretty much how I came up with the title.
Wow, Charley, you talk about it in the book, but to hear you say it, it's riveting. I'm so glad you didn't use those knives, Charley.
That's the beauty of that book, Dee, is that you start reading, you're thinking, okay, the end of this book, this guy has blown his brains out. But here I am, alive and thriving. And I like to show people, as well as when I talk about my recovery, is that if you can just wait 5 minutes for the miracle to happen. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah. And I think that what brought me a lot of solace is knowing that I had just gone on a boat ride with you. So I knew you were alive.
Right. Yeah, very much so.
To be honest, I don't think I could have finished because I'm one of those people that likes to read the ending of a book before I started. And if it's too bad, I don't think I can handle it, especially these days, with the climate of the world for trans people. And it's just would be too hard for me to read it, but I just enjoyed a beautiful time with you. So I knew you were okay. So I digress. Sorry. And so, sometimes, I interview a lot of authors, of course, partners, and parents, and educators, but authors and advocates in the community. And when authors talk, sometimes they talk about, as an author too, trying to decide what to add in, what to take out. Do I put pictures in? How personal do I get? And now, especially in the environment of worrying about safety and stuff, how did you decide? You did tell us because, Margot took you through it, but let's even talk about pictures and what did you decide? Did you leave anything out? Or, you can't tell us what you left out.
I don't think I really left any, I don't really think I left anything out. Margot and I have talked about possibly doing a second book. That it's important that people see where from this now to where I am now. And I think a second book would be important for the category that I fit in now as a trans elder. And what I'm going through being trans elder. The pictures, I just sent Margot a bunch of different pictures. And she actually picked the pictures and what chapters to put. And the title of the chapters we both discussed was that it was important that this book was recovery based in a way, because it was very important for people to see the struggle that I went through as, abusing drugs and alcohol and food. And then also the importance of how I've made that journey I wouldn't say I'm a spiritual AA guru, but I would say in AA, there's a word that we use as recovered. And I use that word a lot now, that I am recovered from a seemingly hopeless illness, as long as I do certain things to strengthen my sobriety. But yeah, I just kind of sent the pictures over to her, and she just basically kind of put them in and picked them. If I left anything out, I think I needed to talk more about where I am today. You know, I think chapter 17 kind of mentions everything, but it's important for people to know that Charley wakes up most mornings very peaceful and very content with life, whereas 14, you'll be 14 years in September when I transition. 14 years ago, Charley woke up a very, very sick, very, very spiritually bankrupt, even though I had 5 years of sobriety. I was just, I wasn't even existing in the world.
Hey, Charles, I didn't know if I knew you paused and I wasn't sure. I'm gonna try to be I was gonna ask a sadder question at this moment, but I think because of where you are at the second, I want to not ask you that question. And I'll come back to, I don't even think you know what the question is, but I know. So anyway, I'm going to shift there for a second. And do you want to talk about right now at this moment, the 17th chapter that you just referred to?
Sure. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the Morehouse one, and then I'll come back to the maybe harder questions.
Question. Okay. Yeah. So
I'm sorry if there's ever something I say or ask you, or that you need a moment, please take it, because you're so generous in your truth. And even though you are an experienced speaker and stuff, it still becomes hard. So I want to respect everything.
Gotcha. Yeah. Chapter 17. That's where Charley truly became the man that he had sought to be. And it's weird if someone would think that a school can do that, but let's think about Morehouse. Morehouse is a HBCU that is a predominantly male college for Black men. And these are straight Black men. And it was previously a Baptist college, okay? And so somewhere they decided, we're going to go with the times and become progressive. And A, we're going to open up to virtual. And B, we're going to allow trans men to come in, because they are now, we recognize them as men. So I knew nothing about, I thought nothing about Morehouse. I'm speaking at engagement virtually. It was a medical, one of their closest friends, one of our mutual friends, had me speaking at a university virtually. I do it a lot for them. And somebody in the audience asked, did I have any regrets? You know, and I said, I regret that I didn't get sober soon enough. I regret that I didn't transition sooner. You know, I said, I regret that I haven't fallen in love, and I regret that I didn't finish my college degree. And very quickly, she typed right back in and she said, well, you know, a couple of those things you can take care of. Sober part, you got sober when you were supposed to get sober. I think you transitioned when you were supposed to transition. And she said, I know you're an older guy, but you're not that bad looking. You'll find love. She said, and then, you know, you do know Morehouse College is now online. And by the way, they're accepting trans men. And so I let that kind of ruminate, and I waited for about a month, and then I went online, and sure enough, I read all the articles, the pros and the cons of how they wanted trans men, they didn't want trans men, and I applied. And so I applied, and then the dreaded day they asked for transcripts from high school and college. And I guess I had just blocked out those years. I'm telling you, Dee, it was the most horrific, horrible looking college and high school. I don't even know how I even got through anything. And so I sent it. She called and she said, Mr. Burton, I just don't know. These are the worst transcripts we've ever seen. But let me see what we can do. But in the meantime, are you a writer? Do you feel comfortable writing, telling us why you feel you need to go to Morehouse? And I'm thinking to myself, baby, I can write. So let me just get into it. And I wrote this 4-page document and sent it off. And I didn't hear from him for several weeks. And then finally one day she called and she said, you know what, we normally send you something in an email. I was like, oh, this is like, thank you for applying. But she said, Mr. Burton, I wanted to she said, you and I have kind of gotten this personal thing going on because I just kind of, I'm one of your fans, she said. And she said, I just wanted to call you and let you know, welcome to Morehouse. And
Whoa.
so I got into Morehouse, and at first I thought it was very important when I did introductions, when we'd go to each class, that these guys let me know that I was trans. And finally, after about 3 classes, I got to knowing guys, and there were a couple of trans guys in the class, but the straight guy that I would have never imagined sent me a text in the chat one night. And he said, brother, I appreciate everything that you probably have gone through as a Black man growing up in churches and trying to transition. But he said, that is not all of who you are. He said, I don't need to know that you're trans. I just need to know that you're my brother in Morehouse. And that virtual bond has just been amazing. And so I felt that I needed to put that chapter in, because basically, like you said, if you were to read from start and not start at the back, you would think, okay, at the end of this book, this guy's dead. And somebody from their family is talking about. But chapter 17 proves to myself and to the reader that we can make it. And that's just one of the most important chapters. And the second important chapter, I believe, is the one that Constance wrote with Margot, because it shows that dysfunction that can happen within relationships. And, you know, and then what it also shows is the beauty of forgiveness, that we left not speaking for years. And now she's a good friend. She's married. She lives in Jersey. We're good friends. I will call her and ask her advice on things, on stuff for medical, etc. And I think that's because of my work and AA and her own spiritual path.
Right. You did the men's, right? And
Yes.
she has an interview in there, and it's
Right.
a very powerful segment of the book.
Right.
I am not alone in saying I am a huge fan of yours, and it's easy to see why even a person over the phone who's trying to get you into college, university would be a fan. And there isn't anybody that we mutually know or even don't that I am close with that didn't send me an email before this saying, Dee, this is great that you and Charley are able to do this together. And I said, and with Lil, of course, they don't know some of them, some do, because they've watched me with her.
They now know. They now know.
Exactly, because Lil's fantastic too. You'd be a huge fan of Lil's if you knew, everybody would.
She's part of our tribe now.
She's fabulous, but she's always been, yes. So anyway, I want to ask you, because you made reference to like those early chapters, right? So in the book, you discuss like some really, really painful abuses that you had to endure. How did you, that inner voice of yours, to survive and overcome this? How do you think you did that, or where did that come from?
It came from my recovery. Everything in my life, the successes, the failures, or whatever, comes from me getting deeply rooted into my recovery in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. You got to think now. I'm coming into Alcoholics Anonymous, and because this is Charlottesville, Virginia, and I'm going to be real, I tried to get into a rehab. Had great insurance. My sponsor was trying to get me in a rehab. No one would take me, and we're both convinced. And she's an older white woman, and we both were convinced that the reason the local rehab here in Charlottesville wouldn't take me was because I was Black. I was Black, I was angry, and I had this look of, I don't know whether you're a man or a woman, but you're a little too threatening to me. And my anger was very threatening in those early years and early days in AA. And I literally detoxed from the stuff that I was putting in my body, both physically and mentally, in the rooms of AA. And then about 90 days into recovery, stuff started really happening. Voices, I was thinking, if this is what sobriety is going to be like, I might as well go back out and drink, because I didn't have these things. When I was out there drinking, these things would come up, and I would definitely just deaden them with whatever I could deaden them: food, alcohol, drugs. And this loving sponsor did research and found in Charlottesville someone who was doing EMDR. Now, you know more about it than I do, that, you all, but that EMDR, that therapy saved my life into being able to take care of those demons. Because, you think about it, the people who abuse me are no longer physically on this earth, so I can't confront them. And the best thing I could do, what my sponsor taught me, was be of service. Be of service of people who has had this abuse before. Be of service to people who are questioning their gender. That's the best way that you're going to be able to tackle this problem, that you can't physically go and talk to this person anymore. And I tell you, I wrote letters upon letters upon letters, and I would go outside and burn them. I did everything they told me to do in AA because I had nothing else to be able to save me. And I give all my props to Alcoholics Anonymous. You had two old white men back in 1935 write a book that basically applies to this Black trans man named Charley. And I read this book every day, and that book is my lifeline.
Charley, thank you. Thank you. In the book, EMDR, what I know of it is really works well for people with trauma. That's like, it's, I'm not a therapist, but I'm around who are, and they talk about this training, and it's an intense training as a therapist to get it, and it's a really success, can be very successful with people with trauma. But in your book, you talk about those voices that you just mentioned came up. You get to know each one of those voices. I'm not gonna, people have to read it. It can be triggering. Again, I want to say, so really read it. Make sure if you have a mental health professional, when you even read it, if it's triggering, you go to them. If you're in a 12-step program, use that support. Use any support you can when you're reading this book. And I'm not trying to discourage people to do it. I'm actually saying that it is, just get the right support you need when you read any book that could be triggering. Any book, not my books, any books. You got to take care of yourself, self-care. And mental health professionals, in my opinion, are the best route for that, as well as, if you're a 12-step person, and then I think that's fantastic too. I'm a great support of that, as we all know. And so the thing that so the voices, we get to know those voices, and when they are quiet and when they're loud. And that's the most I think we might have to go through with that, unless you need to
the reason I included it when Margot and I worked with it, because I told Margot the reader needs to get inside my head in some way. And so these were the things were inside, and also someone who's suffering from the same thing. For me, those voices saved me.
Yes.
They saved me from whatever. They were there to protect me. And it's important, I think, to a therapist to read this book to see, wow, you know what? Okay, so this just not voices. These voices are there in our head and in our spirit for a reason.
Yeah, and we get to see that they come out when some of the worst abuses are occurring to you.
Right.
And almost like they became your friend to get your head out of your head, or your body head somewhere detached from your body. I mean, therapeutically, I've heard of some of the terms and stuff, but I don't want to act like I know, because I'm professional with that.
You know everything, Dee.
Oh my God, Charley, how I love you. So I know we're smiling, but when we spent some time together when we were in Montreal, you talked about, and I never heard really a person who was who had gone through gender transition I work with the partners and the parents and, family members who talk about their grief and their loss. But you spoke with me about how, as a person in transition, you were dealing, as you were doing that, as much as you wanted, you knew you were always a man. There was parts of the person you were assigned at birth, the gender, that person that you mourned, and even parts of your body that might have been changed to align with your affirming gender. Do you want to talk at all? You don't have to.
Sure.
I'm
an open book, D.
I know. And open this book.
And
okay.
Open that book. There you go.
I couldn't help myself.
I knew you. That was my prompt for you to do that. PR.
Oh, well, I took it beautifully. I'm the person now, so I have to be able to read your mind.
I don't like to use the word, and this is just me, this is just Charley. I don't like to use that word dead name because even though I was so broken for 50 years, I was living as a woman, and it worked. Whatever way it worked, for whatever reason. Did it work well? No. Okay. And so for 50 years, I lived as a woman. And I was alive as alive can be. For the last 14, I am now a Black man living a trans experience. And so I remember when I'll tell briefly, I had my top surgery late. I just had my top surgery about 3 years ago. And a lot of that was because I didn't have decent jobs. Insurance wasn't covering it because of all the LGBTQ laws, the trans laws and so forth. And then when those laws opened up, and I believe it was President Biden signed it, I was able to get my top surgery. I remember waking up, they kept me overnight because I had another surgery as well. And for a brief moment, I grieved not having breasts. For a brief moment, I realized there's a part of my body that's gone. And I've got to now learn how to maneuver through this world without that existence. And when I realized the beauty of not having this, if y'all can recall, there was a couple of years ago on the East Coast, in the summer, they had this gas shortage. People was putting gas in plastic bags, and they were like, you're not going to have gas for weeks. And I'm on this training. I have no idea what's going on in the world because I'm not even anywhere near social media, the news. And so we had a break, and I pulled social media up, and I saw where my cousin, Debbie, was saying, go get your gas when you can. They've got gas over here in XYZ. So I called her and I said, what in the name of God is going on? And she's like, where have you been? There's this gas shortage and they're saying it's going to be for weeks. Okay, so here's now this crazy alcoholic thinking. Okay, I've got my car for God's doing service for it in the shop. He just called me and said it was ready. I need to go get gas because if I don't get gas, I'm on vacation now. And I'm off for the next 2 weeks. But my thinking is, if I don't get gas tomorrow, I can't go to work in the next 2 weeks. So I rush out. I run downstairs. I asked my brother if he would take me over to get my car. And he said, yes. When do you want to go? I said, like right now. And I rushed back upstairs. And I'm thinking, okay, let me get my binders on. Because I'm a big guy. I was wearing 3 binders. And you can imagine in the heat what that's like. And so I was like, let me get my binders on. And then I got to the top of the stairs and I realized I don't have to put a binder on anymore. And I went in and I got this crisp, clean t-shirt. And I remember it going over my head and falling on my shoulders and that little cotton hitting my skin. And for the first time, I was like, I am now alive. I now have a new life. And I know that's really crazy, and people were just kind of like, okay, a t-shirt put you in some type of spiritual experience. But for someone trans who has fought to be able to have that body to match the face or to match what you think in between here, to be able to feel that for the first time. And so as I had mourned for it, and the missing of it, that experience taught me this is what your life is like now. Your life is like you can just put a t-shirt on and go. You don't have to have a shirt on if you want to around the house anymore. It's almost like a spiritual freedom. And so, yeah, I mourned. I mourned Charlotte, and that was my name. I mourned Charlotte, and there are other things as well. When I had to get the birth certificate to get the passport to go to Montreal, it was like I had held off getting that birth certificate because it was homage to my parents who named me. So my name, Charlotte, came from, I was born in the back seat of I wasn't conceived probably, but I was born in the back seat of a 1956 Bel Air. And my mother was holding herself up in this car to keep from smothering me. And she looks over and she sees that we're in the Charlottesville city limits. And so Charlotte's name was born. This is how Charlotte came. And so getting that birth certificate felt like I was cutting them off for the last time. And when I had to get it, I moved through it and got it. But again, it's these small things of losing that for me made a difference, and the gaining now.
Charley, I remember you telling me about, your delivery, how you were born into this world. It's still amazing to me. And yeah, that's how our conversation went about. We talked about it even more than this. And I think it's very important. We're going to work on something. Hopefully we talked about this together and talk about this because it's very important. The thing that I thought it had the word limits, Charlottesville limits.
City limits. Yeah.
I don't know. Somehow that seems connected to me. You talked about your top surgery, and I know that we talked about your medical and emotional support team. I mean, I met you, allowed me to meet some people who were involved in your medical transition and your emotional transition. I mean, I've gotten to know you well, and they really love you and support you, and these are the medical professionals that call you and ask you for advice. I say, Charley, how can we make it better here and stuff, and that's really a tribute to who you are. I mean, I could listen to you speak all day long, and the sincerity comes. Sure, you're welcome. The sincerity comes across. And when we were on the panel, that's how I felt. I almost was going to miss my turn because I was listening to you so much that I was like, oh, wait, I have to get up and speak now. It was so really moved by you. And one of the things that, so creating this support team, how did you go about I mean, I know you talked about your AA fellows, and I know you're not supposed to promote AA, it's supposed to be autonomous, and stuff, but in this case you're speaking from your truth. Right. But how did you create your support team, or outside of AA? Let's use that.
So the health support team, let's go with the health support team first.
Okay. The importance of
healthcare is healing now, but it was very broken when I first started transitioning. Here in Charlottesville, there was nothing. I remember when I went to my therapist, and I wrote that weekend, the whole weekend. And at the end of writing, I said, I think I'm supposed to be a man. And I took that and I gave it to my therapist that I was working with at the time. And I'm just going to put a plug in for I'm going to put a plug in for trans men, and I'm going to put a plug in for Black trans men, because our African American community really questions whether they need to do therapy. Therapy is vital. Therapy is vital, and not just a quick therapy to get a letter, to get surgery. You need therapy because you need to learn who you are, and you need to be able to do that with a trained professional. And so I went to this therapist, and I had to drive to Richmond, which is an hour down, hour back, every other week, because there was nothing here in Charlottesville as far as trans. Now we have a trans clinic. We have a surgeon on board that does surgeries. Love the guy that
He's
did my
amazing.
surgery.
I've had the
Yes,
opportunity.
amazing guy,
He's
amazing
wonderful.
guy. My
Yeah.
PC, I know you know them,
Yes.
amazing person,
Yes.
amazing person. But before that, I had a nurse practitioner in the family practice clinic at UVA named Reagan Thompson. I can give Reagan's name now because she's no longer affiliated with UVA. She moved
Yes.
on. That woman saved my life.
I
That
think you
woman,
mentioned, don't you
yes,
talk about her in the
yes,
book? Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that woman
I
saved
really,
my life. That
Mm.
woman was my voice in healthcare before I found my voice. And, you know, you think about, I didn't want to go have mammograms. I didn't want to go. I mean, be for real. My body is still biologically a woman. So I have to do things to protect myself and keep myself healthy.
Charlie,
Mammograms was
this
one.
is so important. Can you just say that again? Because I want people to know, even gynecological people.
Right,
Even,
right.
you
It is
just mentioned
so
this?
important.
Yeah.
We are still, our body biologically is a woman, and we have to take care of those parts to have a healthy life. And so it is important to get the mammograms. It is important to have done the OBGYN, the pap smears, and so forth and so on. And I remember going for a mammogram at UVA.
And this is post, is this post,
this is
top
before
surgery?
my top surgery.
Before
And I'm
your top
sitting
surgery?
in this waiting room, and people start getting uneasy because there's a guy sitting in the waiting room. Okay. And they call security because this creepy black guy is sitting in the waiting room. You know, and I had to go through security and come out in front of all these people. And so, you know, that just drove me right back to say, I'm not going to do this stuff. And Reagan was like, we're going to work this out. And so when I had to have mammograms, I'd either have them be the first person coming in the morning or the last person in the evening. And she would literally hold my hand and say, you let me know if you don't get the fair treatment that you deserve. And so that was the type of person that I had. As I started getting more comfortable in who I am, I became that voice for other people. And so I started I started speaking to medical students at UVA. I started voicing stuff. You know, I will go with people if need be to have their appointments. I'll be that voice. Reagan was my voice. I'll be their voice that they need to be able to maneuver the healthcare system. So my support at UVA right now is phenomenal. I've had phenomenal doctors. They know, but that's Charley. And that's really nice because Charley's visible, but I'm hoping you're doing the same thing for the kid or the elder that's not as visible as Charley. So that's my charge to be able to do that. My family has blown me away. You think about this. We are in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm in a little rural town called North Garden, and the hub of life is the Black Baptist Church. Now, there were some that didn't want me there, and that's okay. But my family, my cousins, my brother, my sister, my nieces, have my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law is this He-Man Vietnam vet. And this guy gets my name, he gets my pronouns. You know, my nieces get it. I have a great niece that she has these two adorable a nephew and a niece that one time she sent me a card and she said, I am so glad that my kids, I don't have to explain to them who you are. All they know is that you're Uncle Charley. So this is the support that I have from my family. And then I have that AA support. And then I have the trans community that is support. I have the LGBTQ community that is a huge support. And so I am very fortunate in that my support has been huge and has been positive. My family completely blew me away. I mean, just completely blew me away. There has not been any conversation of you doing this is a mistake. None of that. My sister sends me great birthday cards and they title brother. You know, it's just, I have a tremendous support. And I feel that this is why I do the service that I do, because some people don't have that support. So let me be your family and let me be your support.
Charley, you know, I feel like one of those, you know, like in a car when they have that like little thing in the car and that the head goes up and down every time.
The bobblehead?
I'm embarrassed as a professional that if my head is doing this way more than it's supposed to, which I work on not doing anyway, because I'm such an active listener, which I have to work hard when I interview people. I'm not apologizing. It's like an amen, Charlie. And
you know
like
what? Maybe
amen.
we need to make bobbleheads of each other.
Yes, we do. Charlie, my answer is yes. Anything you ask, the answer is yes. Because the thing is that that's my wish, dream, hope for everybody that has what the support you have. But you have figured out how to get chosen family when that wasn't happening, and then until you can have your family. And there are many families that take time and they come around, and some get it right away, and some never get it. And then there's other ways to get it, and you showed the medical community. And I think it's very important that this be like probably my longest talk on here. The medical community to understand that I knew you didn't really do that post, but there are people that do mammographies post. It may not that often because things can develop because they didn't maybe get the proper treatment before they were getting top surgery or certain types of bottom surgery. And so it's very important to train radiologists to have people that will go and to do this, because it is not spoken up of enough. And I'm so grateful that you have brought this up. When it doesn't surprise me that I'm going to, there was a moment that I smiled with Biden for, a lot of people know reasons why, but I'm going to say one of the main reasons at this moment. You were named an outstanding Virginian for 2021 by Equality Virginia.
Yeah.
And then something wonderful through them happened for you. But I just want to say that when this happened for you, you so not bragging about it, because I probably would have been screaming my head off to the whole world, because it's on the list, is that Charlie was going to do a pre-thing with me. And then he's like, D, I can't make it at the time. I'm explaining right now. I'm going to Northern Virginia right now, but I'll be in my hotel all night long. You could call me or write me. And I had a commitment, so I couldn't. Right. And then the next thing I do is I go on a social media thing, and Charlie sends me there's Charlie with who, Charlie?
President Biden.
Yes, Charlie. So why don't you explain how this, by the way, I don't tell anybody, and here it happens.
Equality Virginia was gracious enough to give me an invitation under them to be able to go see President Biden. And it was an amazing experience. One of the beauties of it was that I'm walking up the street trying to figure out how to get into the entrance, and I meet this guy, and he and I started talking, and he's this tall, really handsome, gay guy, and we get into the lawn, and that's just blowing me away that I'm now on the lawn at the White House. Here's Charley Burton at the White House. And he and I kind of hang out, and he's some celebrity type guy. I was like, I don't even know who this guy is. I just know he's a cool guy. And that was the beauty of what we liked at the end after we parted. We talked about how, people were, coming to me and people were coming to him, and he was like, it was just kind of nice that we didn't have to give our labels.
No, Charlie, the story goes, he wanted to know who you were, because
he was like, okay, I said, who are you? And I mean, what do you do? All these guys are coming up, and people are coming up talking to you, and then people started coming talking to me, and he's like, well, I can ask you the same thing. Who are you? And then we both agreed it was just so nice to just be that day. But I figured after President Biden had spoken, it was supposed to have been different, and then it was supposed to have been Thursday night with some different things, but then they had that fog from the smoke in Canada, and they canceled it at Thursday night, and they made it Saturday morning. But I kind of figured once he got off the podium, he was going to be headed back towards, this particular area, so I planted myself there. But it was just such a amazing experience. First of all, thank you, Equality Virginia, for tracking me down and saying, hey, got this invitation for you. And second of all, that my life has allowed me to be at the White House.
Yeah.
I tell a story. I remember about 30 years ago, I was drunk in the therapist's office and angry. And I guess that was around the time of President Reagan. And I said to the therapist, I think I need to get in my car and drive to DC and see if I can kill the president.
Oh, Charlie, we're not right. We're not advocating anything like that.
So,
Okay.
no.
No
So
violence.
the therapist throws me, and I go in front of FBI people. And so I'm standing here on this lawn a couple of weeks ago, and I'm thinking, I went from being this crazed lunatic to now I'm a worthy person in the community, worthy enough to be here standing on the lawn. And I share that story. No, don't go out and do this. But
Okay,
I share that story, and that this is where my life is involved. It's involved from this crazy, crazy person to now I'm somebody who's respected in the community, that I get this invitation to meet the president, which is actually your guy. You're obsessed with him.
Well, okay, wait. I want to put it this way. I received a live cutout picture of him for one of my birthdays. Now listen, I you know what, he is Joe Biden, a president. I love him. I happen to a lot. I don't even want to blush.
She's blushing. She's blushing.
I know, because whatever. Is the real deal, as you know, Kamala would say, right? It's a very pure, the real deal, right? And he is in such support of the community.
Yes.
And that is one of the most endearing things to me, to have somebody in politics to support the community and understand the importance of giving people the proper treatment and the proper everything that is deserved to the community, and to not harm or hurt and go against. I feel strongly. I feel everybody needs to be respected and honored, and not have to leave their state and not have to leave their life. And I can go on forever, but so yes, Charlie, when I saw that, my mouth was open. It wasn't just bobbing my head. Everything was like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy for Charlie. And yes, you know, you had those thoughts, you knew what was wrong. Something saved you from doing something that would have been tragically horrible. And to get you to where you are now, you had some angels, something on your shoulders to carry you through. And one of the things that you've done in your life, that you've worked on with the people at your job, because you have a lovely job now, is we talked about this when we were in Montreal about Black trans men can cook. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Sure. So this is my new baby. So we were, how everything was going virtual. Equality Virginia had what was called a TIES conference, a Trans Informational Empowerment Summit. And they would have these TIES conferences every year. And so then, of course, COVID and the pandemic hit, and they had one virtually. And so they had this great setup where you'd be able to go on, and this young man had conducted a people of color panel. And so after the people of color panel ended, we could go out into breakout rooms and just kind of hang out and talk. And some kind of way we just got to talking. And my question to those guys was, does anybody like to cook? And they were like, yeah, but I've had this story, the reason why I don't like to cook, and I have that story, the reason why I don't like to cook. And I love to cook. I love to cook. And so I started thinking, well, why don't we just meet as a group and just kind of hang out? And our first goal was basically we were just going to hang out, see if we could find a place that would have a kitchen where we would be able to teach each other how to cook. And then a lot of guys started talking about their auntie and their grandma and their mom's recipes. And so I knew Margot and I were talking about my mother had a cookbook, and we were talking about resurrecting that cookbook along with her recipes and my stories. And then I realized that surrounding around food, these guys have a story to tell. And so we birthed Black Trans Men Can Cook. And we're in the process of the guys meeting with Margot, and they're going to share a story and recipes. Some of the stories are funny. Some of them is like, one guy was like, the reason I never taught myself how to cook is because this was a place where I had abuse in the kitchen. And so I never, the kitchen was just been so triggering for me, but we're helping him move through that to see the beauty of it. You don't have to endure that anymore. And so whereas a lot of the stories are just heartwarming, they're also, this is going to be a labor of love for them to be able to get their feelings onto paper, and then them seeing that they too can be a published author. So it's going to be a great contribution, I believe. It's going to be the first cookbook solely done by trans men. And so, with all the unrest that's going on.
Will it be only Black trans men, or
no, I was
just...
getting ready to share with that. So we
Okay.
decided that how do we heal? Because even within the trans community, we're separate. There's the Black trans community, and there's the white trans community, there's the Latino trans community. And so how do we heal in order to get to know each other? And so Black Trans Men Can Cook is actually sponsoring a cookbook that's going to be called Trans Men Can Cook. And we've opened it up to anyone of any race. You just have to be trans, male, masculine identified. And I believe it's going to be a great book.
Charley, it is so brilliant. Everything came in an organic way. My friend always talks, we're going to break bread with the family, and it really is, I think this is brilliant. I can't wait to hold that in my hand and talk to you about that, and maybe interview a bunch of,
Absolutely.
My answers, I would love to. I haven't asked Lil, but I'm sure she's always open to everything. I think that this, to empower others through our own service, is, I can't, inside, nothing feels better and more honest,
Right.
What a great way to really elevate somebody to the, have the privilege to be allowed to elevate somebody.
Right. Thank you. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And that's what your work's all about. I have like a million more questions to ask you, and maybe, a little over time, but not completely.
That's okay.
And so I'm not going to get to all of them. I'm so grateful that you're my friend. I don't know how to say this. I'm going to have an opportunity to spend some time with you over the summer. I can't wait. And I'm hoping to do this with Lil. I'm going to try to work something out with her if I can. I use this for certain aspects, but your resilience, your tenacity, I know you're pursuing your dreams. You're inspirational and in every way. And I think that it is, when you're talking, very healing to include the entire community and do that. I think that is a very, very inclusive way, and it will be healing, I think. Of course you can do two versions if you want to, right? But I understand how that shift is now, and I think that's beautiful. And beautiful, there we go. And so I just, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hopefully retired. Hopefully.
Charley, you're never going to be tired. Take it from somebody.
I don't think so.
One job and went right into another.
Yeah.
Trust me.
One of the things I want to speak about, if I could plug in, is a group that I helped co-found was Diversity and Recovery. And Diversity and Recovery was a group that we created during the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and the COVID. Young woman went into a breakout room in an AA meeting and was talking about that she had been in one of the protests and, racial stuff. And some guys pulled her off in a breakout room and said, this is not the stuff you talk about in AA, which is true. And so when I was approached, I said, you're right. absolutely right. That's the beauty of the structure of AA. But there's nothing hindering us from making our own space. And so Diversity and Recovery was formed, and it did well, like a lot of things, a lot of organizations, and then it died. And then I started getting people requesting that we have this back again. So I'm in the process of recreating Diversity and Recovery again. I think that's going to be something that's going to take some of my time. I just want to plug about my job. I work for a company called WorkSource Enterprises. And it is a company, a group that employs people with disabilities. And it is a beautiful organization. And so I have about 12 of I call them my team members. I have 12 of the most fantastic team members that have all types of mental stuff that goes on with them. But they suit up and they show up and they work every day. And I have a boss who is so comfortable with who I am. And I've been fired before because I was trans. But this organization has opened their arms and supported me. And I look at the team members and I think 25 years ago, I was told by a psychiatrist, because back in the day, you didn't have therapists. You went to psychiatrists for everything, laying on the sofa, talking your woes away and getting your meds. And I remember this physician saying, the best thing you're going to be able to do is go hang out at the clubhouse all day, make some baskets, do whatever, because you'll never be able to hold down a regular job because of the mental state that you're in. You'll never be able to hold down a real job. And here I am, the manager of a government site, working with people who have been just like me. And if I can end with anything, Dee, it's that I have a wonderful life. I have a life that I've never dreamed I would have. I have a life that I'm respected and I respect me. And I remember many years ago, I would look in the mirror and I'd be brushing my teeth and I wouldn't even hold my head up to look at myself because I hated myself. I thought it was disgusting. I thought it was ugly. I thought I was fat. I was all these negative things. And I tell you, I spend more time brushing my teeth in front of the mirror these days, looking at myself saying, you know what? You're an okay guy. You are okay. Despite what some of these conservative people think about who I am okay. And life has been okay. And it's okay because of meeting people like you and Lil, it's just okay.
Charley, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You are beautiful, Charley. I think this is why I'm using the word beautiful so much. And inside, outside, your heart, your selflessness, your like I said, your tenacity, resilience, everything. You are an inspiration to me, to so many
Thank
people.
You.
And I know this. I know this to be a fact. I can't wait to spend time with you. Maybe speak with for you with something and be there with you. I thank you for the time you've given me. I do have a request. I know it's kind of shameless, but if you get invited again, could I please be your date? My spouse will have no problem with this. Could I be your date?
Yes, absolutely.
Possibly pass by him somehow.
Sure.
I love the human being that he is. Above all, take out presidency, him, Jill Biden. I love them as human beings. I think
Joe Biden is the reason why I had top surgery.
Yeah,
what he fought for us. Right. Exactly.
I know. That's why I'm ending with it. So could I please be your date? You don't have to answer me.
Come on. Right? Yeah. And wear that scarf.
I'll wear this scarf. I wore this scarf with Lil one time when we did our dual thing in person together. And so I wanted to do it for the 20th one to wear something related to Lil.
Heels might not work too well on the lawn, but
that's okay. That's okay. I'll do whatever I need to wear or do. I will be appropriate. I promise you. And thank you. Seriously.
Thank you.
Here's the book. I can't wait to hold the cookbook up also.
Yeah.
The Boy Beneath My Skin, a Black trans man lives in the South by Charley Burton.
That's it.
I want to promote your book. I want to promote everything. If you need a speaker, you can see how powerful and fantastic he is. Lil, I thank you for this opportunity again. And
Yes, thank you, Lil. Yeah.
Allowing me to do the 20th episode with you. And be part of the posts and everything. Charley, I can't wait to do things with you. And
absolutely. You give me energy. You give me energy.
Yes, same thing, Charlie. When Charley and I are in the same space, it's a very beautiful.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
All right. So even on Zoom, we're like excited. All right. So Lil, is there anything you want to say? Do you want to show anything?
Of course. I do.
Oh no. Okay. No, I meant the thank you.
These are these books as well. I shared all the links, okay?
Okay.
In the chat. The links also to charleyspeaks.com. Well, all of the links as you were talking, Black Men Can Cook, Diversity in Recovery, work where Charley works as well. I looked that up as you were talking about it.
You know what?
Great.
Charley's always hiring, right? Charley, you're always
That's
hiring.
right. That's why I'm always hiring.
He's always hiring. And when I talk to him, so I don't think there's anything wrong with plugging that. Get in touch with him.
Worksourceva.org. So
it.
I shared the link in the chat about that. I just want to say thank you to one of our viewers from California, a Mexican trans woman. So for sharing in the chat, and it was an amazing discussion. I didn't incorporate any of my own thoughts in there because it was just everything you were both saying was perfect. So I didn't feel the need to say more to add to the discussion. I just want to say one thing that I'm drawing sort of as the takeaway message from this discussion is how, Charley, you are proof of that whatever human, and regardless of gender identity, orientation, you are an example that shows that people can, in whatever how terrible their situation is, how horrible their background has become, and how they may have even been in a mindset where they were capable of doing terrible things, are able to pick things up, get their shit together, and move forward in a more positive manner. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for those words. Thank you.
And
sorry
Charley,
for the profanity.
It's okay. It's honest. It's honest. Charley, please, we're going to keep the person anonymous, but Charley has found love. I know that he has. And I want to
well, we don't know.
Okay. And that's why I'm going to keep it calm. We're not saying anything, so nobody will know. But Charley has found someone who cares a lot about him. How's that, Charles?
There you go.
Because it's pretty early on, so I'm just want to say that, like when I read the end of that book, that I always like to see the ending. My wish for you, because I know you want it, is that ending. So I just want to leave on the more to come in that area, but it's still going on, that situation. So
I don't know.
all right, whatever. We'll move on. I'm sorry, Charles.
That's okay.
That too is part of the journey, right?
That's part of the journey. That is part of the journey. Right. It's hard for trans people to date, and it's extremely hard, and especially the older we get, the harder it is. And you have to deal with stuff with especially cisgender women who are interested in dating trans men. They question themselves, and they question themselves right out to it. Then becomes fear, and then fear, of course, we all know it's a lot of times is false evidence appearing real, but it's just it's what it is. And but I do know who loves Charley. Charley loves Charley.
That's right.
That's the most important thing. Yeah.
Charley,
Exactly.
and then you found love, Charles, and that is ending
That's
for the
it.
same book.
Love
And
it.
Yes.
and you know, I think the more people have education and understand, and we all understand that when you meet the right person, you will meet the right person. And
That's
right
right.
now, the best person to date is Charley to date Charley. And if
That's
things,
it.
uh,
Yes.
so okay,
Exactly. We have to be in love
Thank
with
you.
ourselves. That's so important.
First,
That's
Let
right.
ourselves be loved. And I just wanted to also mention that in terms of education, you mentioned education, Dee, that I recently did a little talk with some of our own employees alongside our staff psychologist because we've been onboarding some new staff. And so we spoke, about some sort of an introductory idea, similar to a workshop that Dee gave to us a year ago. Dee came over to Marbella and did a workshop with all of our staff and some of the hospital staff. So this was sort of a continuation, and we even used some of the list of terminology and vocabulary that Dee put together. We revisited that. And yeah, so I think it's so important, these educational things and these talks. And I've been getting feedback about this. Dee, I haven't had a chance to send it to you, but I just had some amazing feedback yesterday. A woman from Texas was saying how her parents don't accept her, and she is so grateful for these live streams. She absolutely loves you, Dee, to death. And so I'm gonna send you the quote from her. And so yeah, there are people who are watching these talks, even though they're incredibly long. And so each and every one of our guests, like you, Charley, are really making a difference in people's lives around the world.
yes.
Right.
So thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, so let's go. I know we all have things to do, people to see, world to shake up. So thank you for being here and watching. And if you're watching this video
Thank
and it's
you.
recording, please make a comment, like, follow, and share with your lovely friends. And remember, your health and happiness matter.
Amen. Yeah. All
Don't
right.
forget.
Love you. Love you all.
Thank you.